Hi everyone and welcome to ViVoCAST, the official podcast of ViVoTech. ViVoTech are the IT team for you. No fuss, no hassle, simply making IT work for you and your business. Good morning everyone, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined with ex-Leeds United and Norwich and current Middlesbrough FC player Jonny Howson. Morning John.
Morning, you okay?
Very well, yeah. How are you? You all well?
All good, yeah.
Good. How are you finding Corona and things at home? How's the family? Good?
All good, yeah. Obviously, it's difficult times, and you have to do what's being told and deal with it best you can. But okay, we'd love to nip into town as a family and go get a coffee or take kids to a play area or do something like that. But then at the same time, it's quite nice that the fact of, from a personal point of view, I'm here every day, for a large period of times, which is probably something that I've not had certainly since the kids have been born. So from that aspect, it is quite nice that I'm spending quality time with them, getting to do things with them, and so I'm enjoying it on that aspect as well, yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. So, yeah, as everyone's aware, our ViVoCast themes are all about journeys, and obviously we're delighted to talk to you about you and your footballing and life journey, I guess, today. So let's go right back to the start. You're a young lad living in Churwell in Leeds, for those that don't know where Churwell is. Talk to us.
Morley.
Yeah, I like that. So
top Churwell, so half and half.
Yeah. So Jonny Howson starts at Churwell Lions at your age. When did you start playing for Churwell? And tell us a little bit about how they had a part of the start of your journey.
So my brother used to play for Churwell Lions. Obviously, he's 5 years older than me, and at the time I wasn't old enough, so I just used to go along whilst he played football, played on pitch at side. Obviously, naturally got into it like that, and there were the odd times I'd been a bit younger, made numbers up a little bits like that, got into it, and then obviously when I was old enough, I'd join my own team at Churwell Lions, and I've got obviously very fond memories, made friends for life from there, and I do look back and I had it in high regard of Churwell Lions, and it's something that means a lot to me even now to this day.
Yeah, that's lovely. I mean, so would you say that in your early days, then your brother was almost your maybe inspirations a bit strong, but somebody you looked up to from a footballing perspective, and that's probably what got you involved a little bit.
Yeah, of course it is, and even now, I've probably, at the time you probably don't realise it, but if he hadn't been into football, I possibly might not have been into it or whatever. So, obviously huge thank goes to him that first and foremost he went into it. My dad was never into football, and it's something that didn't interest him at the time. But thankfully my brother got into it. I went along and got into it like that, and naturally as brothers do, we used to play it together.
Yep.
It probably sometimes didn't work out too great if he were beating me or whatever, a bit of sore loser at times, but that was just brotherly love, and as I say, I'm obviously ever grateful that got into it that way, and he's to this day been one of my biggest fans, probably with my dad and my mum.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It really is. And then obviously you went to Brooklyn School at the same time. How did you? What was school life like and family life for a young Jonny Howson?
It was tough at times. Regards to the football side of it, I wanted to be a footballer, and that's all I concentrated on. Schoolwork, I wasn't a bad lad, or anything like that, but it didn't really interest me, schoolwork, and football was my only focus that I had. And I'll be honest, if I hadn't have been offered to go in full time at Leeds, I'd probably been stuck for things to do, because that's all I wanted to do, and that's all my focus was on. But at the same time, there was times throughout Certainly high school life where I obviously couldn't do certain things. Whether it may be a Friday night of go and do certain things because I may be training Saturday morning, same with Saturday night, game Sunday. And it was tough, I'll be honest, sometimes we weren't supposed to play for the school because of injuries and things like that, but there were a few times where I did play for my school, because I'd had a few years at Churwell Lions when I were very young playing with them, but at the same time I wanted to play with my proper mates, and play for the school was something I just wanted to do for a bit of fun. So there were a few times I did actually play for the school, managed to win a trophy for the school, win something, so it was quite nice. And as I said, I'm pretty sure there was the odd times I missed training to go and play for a school, and as I say, it wasn't a case of not having that focus to go and be a footballer. It was just a case of I wanted to play with my friends as well.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I mean, you were picked up by Leeds at a very early age, weren't you? And obviously there's lots of sacrifices that come with that. There's obviously the school side, obviously, managing school time and education whilst the intense pressures of being at Leeds. How did you find that as a young lad, managing sort of your friends, time with your friends and family, your school work and like you say, playing for school things? How was that to deal with as a young lad?
It was tough because, as you say, you can't fit them all in, and sometimes there were times when you wanted to go and do certain things, but whether it were with your friends or maybe go and play football, and you maybe had to do work. And I think that's what's quite good with, when I did go in full time, I obviously didn't look at it like this now, but we did do we had to do a course through football. We used to do it once a week for a full day and another after, because the reality is of not everyone's going to make it to be a footballer, and it's just having something to fall back on. I did a BTEC in sports science, and I'm glad I did get that. Okay, fortunately I've not had to use it, but it's nice that I've got it there. Because as I say, you don't know what's round the corner. Anything can happen, and you've got to cover all bases. It's, as I said, it was tough at times because I would obviously wanting to do certain things, and they're the sacrifices you've got to make. And I'm thankfully that I've got a very good group of friends that understood that as well.
Yeah, no, it's important, isn't it? That support network. So let's move forward. Then you get picked up by Leeds, and you go into the academy at a young age. That brings with it a whole host of differences for you. How did you find that learning and that development from a football perspective sort of take off when you joined Leeds compared to playing at Churwell? And how did you deal with your own pressures, I guess? You've talked already very heavily about you were focused, you wanted to be a footballer, that's all you were interested in, that's what you knew. Did you or your family or your friends put much pressure on you? More you than I guess anybody else. How did you deal with those pressures?
No, I wouldn't ever say put pressure on myself. Certainly when I was not when I was younger, because I was just doing something that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And my dad used to take me most of the time, and at the time you don't realise the sacrifices that he gave up. Probably came home from work early, and as I say, as a young lad, you just expect things off your parents. You just expect them to take you places. It's not until you get older, certainly since you have your own kids as well, and that's probably when you do really appreciate it. And I'm fortunate enough now that I can give that little bit back, and because of the sacrifices he's done it, and I couldn't have done it without my parents and my brother, growing up. That support that they had. In regards to pressure, he never put any pressure on me to succeed, never give me a doing or a telling off. This thing was similar to mine, just enjoy it.
And that's quite refreshing to hear that, because you do see a lot of it in football, don't you? You do see particularly young kids pressures put on kids from parents.
Yeah, of course you do, and you can understand it, because they're wanting either their child to do well, but that's just his way of. That's how he dealt with it. As I say, I was never into sport or anything like that. He could give me tips. It was more life tips or sometimes a bit of common sense. Yeah. And there's certain times where if other parents I'd give them doings, but it was never got back in the car having a doing it. We've all putting the music on and having a sing on the way home. And funny enough, we used to stop at McDonald's and stuff like that. Just like any other young lad growing up in Leeds would do. It was just fortunate I was not bad at football, I guess.
Yeah, it must be quite nice though to maintain through your parents and your brother that sense of normality when you're achieving great things professionally. It must be nice to be sort of, I guess, kept grounded. Do you think that's something that your parents and your brother have certainly helped you with through your career?
Yeah, 100%. And even to this day, I'd like to think, I'm grounded and I've never got carried away. I've always looked at it I'm fortunate at what I do, but I'm no different to anyone else, and that's how I'll always look at it. They kept me grounded, and as I said, I'm thankful for it. First and foremost, how I've turned out as a person and how they've brought me up, and I can't thank them enough, and I'll be forever grateful for them.
No, that's good. So you're at the Leeds Academy. You're coming up to the point where it's sort of make or break time. How did it become? Or how did you handle the? This is a dream of yours. You want to be a footballer. You get into the age where it's kind of you're going to be taken on the books or you're not. How was that for you in those years, sort of building up to that realization of it's sort of make or break time?
So the final year of when you find it out, so under 16s will it be under 15? I was probably one of the weaker ones in my age group. We had a strong age group. I think there were about 10 or 15 lads that got kept on. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the number, but it was a good group that we had the year before. I think there might have been one or two. Aaron Lennon was obviously one of them. Yeah. But our group was a good group, and as I say, we kept on majority. But I think there was me and two or three other lads who's probably the weaker ones. We had to play down an age group, and probably at the time there's obviously them doubts of whether I was going to get anything. I think one of the coaches had backed me heavily, I believe, to keep me on, and luckily I did. But yeah, once we went in full time, I was one of the weaker ones, and even when I was in full time, I had to sometimes plan a night to play down an age group, but that's just how it was at the time. And probably moments like them make you stronger. Certainly once you come through them.
Yeah, so I mean, look, whether it's football, whether it's life, business, whatever it might be, you get knockbacks, right? Did you know at that time you were? Do you think in yourself that you were one of the weaker ones, or is that something that you didn't know at the time and you've sort of you reflect now and think that?
Possibly do that at the time, but at the same time, I still believed in myself. I never give up believing, and the biggest thing that I probably had was my hard work. I'd have to keep working. I'd accept situation that you're in. But work through that, give it everything you've got. Certain sayings that I believe in, and one of them, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up, and you can relate that to life.
Absolutely.
We all go through tough times. We all get knockbacks. Things don't work out how you maybe want it to. But things in the past have happened. You can't affect them. The only things that can affect is things that are in front of you, and you've got to do whatever you can to make them happen. And if they don't happen, at least you know you give everything.
Absolutely. So take me to the day then that you find out that Leeds are going to take you on. I know that you're a big Leeds fan, as is your brother. I know that your brother's followed you a lot through your career, but what a proud moment. How did it feel upon finding out, Leeds are going to keep me on and the dream has started?
Yeah, obviously, funny enough, I've got a picture of me actually signing with my family, in my house somewhere, and it's something that I look back that I'm obviously extremely proud of. First and foremost, going to be a professional footballer. Leaving school was something that I'd achieved, so it was obviously a very proud moment. Possibly at the time, when you're younger, you don't really take it in too much. Okay, it's a great feeling that I've managed to get that contract, but you're just eager to get started, to get into that everyday life of going in, playing football every day, training, whatever it may be, and you're just looking forward to the challenge ahead.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you make, John. I listened to a podcast recently, and something that Rio Ferdinand mentioned in a recent piece he did was you sometimes don't reflect enough, or you don't maybe enjoy the moment as much as you should. And it's kind of looking back. Is that something that you've done through your career? Do you think you celebrated enough through your career?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's difficult. No, 100% I've not. But at the same time, then I'm probably going against something that I believe in of, whether you win a game, you don't get carried away, don't get too high. Same with when you lose a game, don't get too down in the dumps. It's about keeping that happy medium. But looking back, I believe a lot probably don't enjoy it maybe how they should, and that's possibly one of the things of you're probably scared of getting carried away or getting ahead of yourself. But there's times that you look back in your career, I've had some very fortunate at times, and there's one that sticks out in my memory. Obviously, when we beat Man United at Old Trafford, I remember we'd gone out onto the pitch after the game to do a recovery, and Michael Doyle, he would obviously one of the more experienced players, the older players at the time, and he's someone that had gone very well. And he'd said to me, he says, these are the moments you need to enjoy because they don't come around too often. And they obviously believed him, but even still at the same time, not that you take it for granted, but it's just happening. You're just going along with it. You don't actually sometimes realise what is happening until maybe you reflect on it like this, maybe speak about it, or look back at certain times. And so it is a difficult one. But
yeah, I mean, I think that it's almost an attribute as well of a successful professional, though, as well. I think, people to become a professional footballer, and not just a professional footballer, to excel and become the best in anything you do. I think there's always that want to do better, to do more, to move on to the next thing. And I think certainly a lot of footballers would be guilty of, is my guess, is yes, we've won something or we've achieved something, but what can I do next? Is there always that element of that for you?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that even when something has happened, there's always something around the corner. You get promoted at the end of the season, like we did in going back to Leeds at League One. Get promoted from there. Yeah, okay, you maybe enjoy it for a week or so. Very proud of your achievements, but you soon go into that mode of, right, we're in the Championship now. It's going to be obviously a tougher league. Can I go and impress there? Can I go and do well? Can I keep my spot in the team? New players are going to come in. There's all these questions that you start asking yourself, and that's when you start focusing on, right? Yeah, exactly. And that's what can make it difficult, but that's sometimes the difference between maybe getting an extended career, if you like, or fading away. And there'll be players out there that I've probably got carried away, relied on the things that they maybe have done or achieved, but they can soon pass you by, and they can soon become, a distant memory when you may be struggling. But that's where you've got to focus on your next goal, because, as I said, whether you win, lose, or draw, things in the past have gone. You have to focus on the next task ahead.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest cliche in football, isn't it? We just focus on the next game, but I guess it's based on what you've said, it's very, very true.
Yeah, of course it is. You know, then, as you said, you do an interview after a game, and it's always that cliche of, focus on the next game, and it's just standard answers. But at the same time,
very true.
It is very true, because that's what you've got to do. It's no point coming off and going, man of match, scored an hat-trick, and 4 weeks down the line still talking about that, because that's gone. You've had 3 bad games since then. So it is a cliche, but as you mentioned, it is very true as well.
So you've made it for Leeds. So I guess
see, like regards to that of how I mentioned, there's little things, and this is going from a coach that I picked up of how he said he made it for Leeds, and he gave me an advice, or he spoke to my dad of. He says you're not made it until you retire.
Great point.
And that's little things, and as I said, there's little things and little pointers that will stick with me, that I believe can help you, and that's one of the little things that I look at of, okay, I've done some nice things, but I've not made it until you retire.
Yeah, but in that context, there'll be lots of players that I just said would have made it. They put pen to paper at 16 and never put on the shirt. So, absolutely true.
Well, even in regards to that, as I say, we had a big group, and one thing my dad had mentioned, one of the parents had said to him when we'd got these contracts, majority got 2-year scholar and 1-year pro. Some of the better ones got 2-year pro on top, so 4-year. And it's one thing that probably sticks with my dad, and little bits of advice that we've gone throughout my career. And he said, one of the parents had said, they can relax a bit now they've got these deals. And his response was, can't, 3 years ago in no time. They've got to keep working, and even to this day, there's no relaxing, because there's always something that we spoke about, something that you can be doing, or something that you've got to work towards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then you let's change it. Then you start your career with Leeds. You've not made anything yet. I think. Yeah. So you the next thing you're looking for, you say you're always looking for something around the corner. It's going to be your debut, right? So you're looking to put on the famous white shirt as a Leeds fan. Obviously, you get your chance against Barnet. Talk me through that experience for you. When did you find out, and what were the emotion like leading up to that Barnet game?
It's one of them of, you find out you're in the squad, and you're obviously excited, and you want to start in the game, and it was that thing of, hopefully I'm on the bench, the game comes, you sat in the change rooms, and you're obviously just a young lad round men, and it can be very intimidating. The lads will get out with me, helped you along, but comes to the game, and it's one of them of just excited to get out, do the warm up, and so obviously want a full crowd at Ellen Road for Leeds Barnet on a Tuesday night, but nonetheless, it was probably the biggest crowd I'd played in front of. Being at Ellen Road, somewhere where I'd been watching growing up as a kid, used to go to all the games and things like that. So you're just excited. There's that obviously a little bit of nerves once the game starts. I've always been one of them of, I probably had an idea of thinking, if we're winning comfortably, I'll have a chance of coming on maybe. Obviously, once you knew that I was on the bench, so you'd obviously wanted the team to go and hammer them, really. It gives me a chance of how longer I might get on the pitch. And that was the case of, as soon as the game starts, more so in the second half, because unless if someone's having a really bad game or you're injured, no one comes off in the first half. So you're obviously second half, you just wanted to get on. There was obviously winning. And this is the same with the youth team. You've obviously got an idea. You've got a chance when the manager actually turns around to the bench and tells you to warm up, when you think, whoa, bit of a chance. Or you obviously the butterflies start going, and you're always half looking over, and that's possibly even the same now. You're half looking over, thinking he's giving me the call yet. When you obviously get the call of you going on, you start to get stripped off, and there's excitement, that nerve, but when it comes to it and you run on that pitch, no one can take that away, no matter what happens from now.
Yeah.
I've played a professional game for a team that I've supported growing up, and there was one thing that I remembered was obviously the next thing was trying to score a goal. The one that sticks in my mind was Alan Smith was my hero growing up, and he did it straight away, and he's scored away at Anfield, and that was little things where I'm thinking, that'd be nice. So I was dying to get a goal. It obviously wasn't meant to be, but nonetheless, I was obviously over the moon that I'd played for Leeds in a professional game.
So as a young lad, how did you, and again this relates to everything in life, business, life, whatever, we get these heightened emotions, and at times we just try to keep ourselves calm and whatnot. As a young lad, walking out Ellen Road, you must have been absolutely buzzing. How did you, or how do you even now, prepare yourself when you get these heights of emotion to just sort of calm those nerves, excitement, whatever it might be, and just get down to doing what you know best?
You probably obviously get, when you get older and you've done it a few times, you get better for dealing with it. But even now there's still times where there's certain games and I still get nervous. And I probably look at it as a positive thing now. Where when I was younger, you'd obviously think I'm just capping myself really. But I'm more looking at it as a positive now of, if you're nervous, maybe a little bit worried, it's obviously because you're naturally just wanting to do well, wanting to impress, whatever it may be. But I look at it now of, it's because you care, because you want to do well. If I had no nerves at all and wasn't bothered how I'd performed, I'd probably start to worry now. But I've still got that now, still got that nerves at times. And it's funny because I don't know what it is that possibly triggers it off, because there can be some games, the bigger games if you like, where I wake up in the morning and feel quite relaxed, legs feel okay. Then there can be other games where just an ordinary league game, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, not much riding on it, and you can be nervous, legs can feel heavy. So that can differ, but as I said, I'm still glad I get them feelings. I've just probably learned to turn it into a positive look rather than being younger thinking shit.
Yeah, absolutely. But it shows you care, right? I think that's the main thing. It shows that you care.
As I say, yeah, because I want to do well. I think the day that it comes where I'm not bothered if I win, lose, or draw coming Saturday, whether I play well or not, it probably is a big sign that it might be enough.
So we'll touch on this point a number of times, I think, through this discussion, but football more than most, but it happens across all walks of life. External factors, really, that things that happen that are outside your control. You debut, straight afterwards, Kevin Blackwell gets given the boot and he's he leaves Leeds. What you've got this almost ecstasy type feeling of you playing for your boyhood club, and then this thing happens of the manager going, that must have been really strange to sort of take as an external factor. And then moving on the day after, I think it was the day after, you played against Forest for the reserves, and got an injury which kept you out for about a month, I think it was. So all these different things. How did you find that? And was that weird, that first experience of all them things happening so quickly? Yeah,
it was, because obviously it was the first time in my career that a manager had been sacked, and I don't know how to deal with that. You obviously look at the older lads and listening to what they're saying. And people will have different opinions on that. Some it's only natural. Some will have been pleased. Some won't have been pleased. Yeah. Because of when a manager gets sacked or leaves, it's kind of a fresh start for everyone. For a new manager coming in, he'll have his own ideas. And the bottom line is, it's only a matter of opinion. Me and you here, I'm sure we discuss of you like one player, I possibly don't. And, it's not a personal thing. It's a matter of opinion. And that's one of the main reasons that we love the game. But, going back then, the manager got sacked. I think it was more the injury that had bothered me. I think I'd never been injured before, in the youth team and things like that. And even to now, I find it's the worst thing because there's one, you can't do anything about it. You just have to let it heal, or okay, you can do recovery, but there's a certain time you're going to be out, and it's the worst thing when you're wanting to play football. That's my biggest thing. Even now, I just want to play. But going back then, we obviously knew a new manager was maybe going to be coming in. John Carver, the assistant, took over for a little bit. Yeah. But you'd obviously, as you say, you've just had that eye of making your debut, and then you get injured, and and you're out for a month. It was difficult because as much as I looked at it of no one can take away that debut from me, certainly because you did, you didn't want it to be the final one as well. So you'd obviously question yourself. And
do you think looking back on that injury, it could have, if you look at the positives and things, do you think there's any positives to be taken from that in terms of maybe grounding you again, having that experience and then it being taken away, or you feeling like you're going to be taken away? Do you think that helps?
Yeah, just you mentioned it there. Yeah, possibly so. As I say, at the time you don't realise that, but it is a very good point of it possibly did, because of the emotions going from high, probably certainly went to lows. So very good point, and it is possibly what might have happened. And even now, I've obviously had, touch wood, I've not been too bad with injuries throughout my career, but when I have had them, as I say, it's the worst time possible. But not that I believe I take any of it for granted, but when you are injured, you have time to reflect, time to look, and again, like anything in life, sometimes you don't realise what you've got until it's taken away. Then it's a bit like when the car ain't working and you've got to catch a lift. You rely on certain things and you take them for granted at times because it's everyday life, and that is similar with that.
Yes, now right with the supermarkets, things like that.
Exactly, yeah. So perfect timing and it's the little things sometimes. As you say, with the supermarkets, not being able to go out of your house, as I say, when it's taken away from the norm, if you like, that's when you realise how much you miss these things.
Yeah, sure. So then I think finally on your academy then, looking back now and reflecting on that a little bit, who were the real key influence for you? You mentioned that there were some of these older players that really helped. Who were these people that looking back on, you think looking back now really, really helped me find myself in those early days?
Breaking into the first team, Sean Derry was one. When I've moved into the first team changing room at the training ground, I'd got changed at the side of him, and he's given me little bits of advice, little bits of help, and someone that I looked up to. Another one was Jonathan Douglas. He was more not an older player at the time, but he'd obviously played a fair few games, and someone that maybe took me under his wing, if you like, and I played a lot with Dougie, and someone that I looked up to and give me a lot of advice, a lot of help. And I think it's more, when I say help and advice, I think it's more of not too much regards footballing wise, but of first and foremost how to handle yourself, and that determination, that attitude, and that mindset as well.
Do you think, given the you've obviously stressed the importance of that, and you've mentioned how these people really helped, is that something you do now as one of the senior players at Middlesbrough, and maybe even at Leeds and Norwich when you were there? Is that something that you take upon yourself to help the young players?
I think it is something that you've got to. Certainly this season has possibly been the most where two ways about it. In a way, you've got to. We've got a young side coming through. We've obviously gone through difficult times, and being one of the older lads, you have got to help out. Something that I've always done throughout my career is try and lead by example. I'm not the loudest person, in the changing rooms. But there's little chats that you can have one-on-one. I've found that better as I've got older to go and speak to people, offer them advice. But I believe the biggest thing that I try and do is lead by example, do the right things, and hopefully people can look onto that and try and follow suit. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, no, it's a great point, and everybody needs help. I think that's something that can be done across all verticals. But so let's go back to Leeds then. You're back. Dennis Wise comes in, and we obviously had some success, some relative success with Dennis. But given your league debut at Hull, I believe it was, I was that. I know the game went well for you, but was there a big euphoria sort of state, particularly coming back after injury and getting another chance? Did it mean more that it was a league game? What were your feelings and thoughts around that?
It certainly meant more that it was a league game, because the bottom line is sometimes with cup games you can throw kids out and see how they do. So coming into a league, it was more important, for one, believing that he had the faith in me that I'd do okay. It used to be on a Thursday. We used to do 11v11 shape work. Managers do things different, but that was a thing that we used to do Thursday. He'd have roughly a starting team, or what he was thinking of, and playing against Hull, if you like. And on the Thursday, there was a good chance. I think it might have been Robbie Blake or someone like that was injured at the time, and they kind of want too much options. And there was a good chance, and I remember one of the players saying he thought I might play at the weekend. And as much as that was a bit of a buzz, like, oh, I've got a chance here, you want to hear it from the manager or want to see the team come up. It was on the Friday anyway. Friday, then we do small-sided games, set pieces, run through the team. And it was then when I obviously found out I was playing. And I always remember Dennis Wise used to do this thing on a Friday before all my away games. He used to give you sheets of A4 paper, and it'd have set pieces on there, for and against. It'd have a bit of information on every player of the opposition, the height, the strength, the weakness. And I'd been in obviously a squad before, so I'd seen this had happened, and used to have to study it on a Friday night because come a Saturday before the game in the change room, he'd asked a couple of people questions about the sheet, and if you got them wrong, you'll find. So I was probably more nervous about that. It was a bit like being back at school of trying to study it on a Friday night, and I can picture it now being in my bedroom back at home with mum and dad of a strange sort of way. My more focus was on that rather than the game. You're obviously thinking about the game and wanting to do well, but I was more nervous for one, being a tight Yorkshireman getting fined, if you ask me, I didn't know, but also, as much as it is a bit of fun between the lads, it is a serious thing as well. He's wanting you to learn this for a reason. You don't want set piece coming in and you're not in the right place. That's one thing that sticks in my mind. But I've been quite fortunate as well. I tend to remember a lot of the things, certainly with the more momentous occasions, making your debut, first goal, things like that. I tend to remember quite a lot of the things. Man
of the match on that first appearance. What did that do for you, confidence wise? Did you have the confidence anyway, or was that really something that made you sit back and think, actually, I can do this?
Yeah, I think it was a case of that. I can do this. It gives you that little bit of confidence. I've just played my first game. I've done well. Another thing that I didn't want to lose my first start. It's an entertaining 0-0 between Leeds and but there's different things that I remember throughout the game. I remember the first thing doing that gave me a lot of confidence. Or another little thing that I just remembered. I was heard about with Sean Derry and Douglas.
Yeah.
I remember. I think it was Douglas with this one, and he'd come up to me before the game and he says, "Just enjoy it." You know, as quite a lot of them do. Hugo Egiog was there. He'd spoke to me before the game. You know, majority had come up to speak, but Douglas had said, "If you're ever in doubt, just give me the ball. Whether there's man on me or not, I'll take it off you." And it's little things like that probably settle you down a little bit. But as I go back to start the game, you obviously wanting to get your first touch. I remember tackling someone, chasing someone, tackling playing a nice ball, and you hear the roar of a crowd have kind of got them off a seat a little bit, and that gave me a lot of confidence of settle me down at the same time. Give me a G up as well, thinking, they're quite like that as well. So, yeah, as I said, there's quite a lot of things that I do remember.
So, yeah, I mean, we've touched on it already a little bit, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with professional football, none more so than under the lights at Ellen Road. As a young lad, how did you find that? You know, as a Leeds fan myself, I can relate to, I think at times I think we're either very, very good for players or very, very bad for players. We can get on people's backs and equally we can egg people on. But how did you deal with that? I know Leeds, other players have been and left Leeds that have really struggled with that. How did you find it, particularly with the pressures of being a Leeds lad?
Yeah. At the time, you know, let's be honest, when you're a young lad coming through, certainly from the area, they're going to back you no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, you'd already got to step up if you like, but at the time you don't realise that. And I was obviously just pleased that I was being involved and getting to play. And sometimes as a young lad, and even now you can relate to it, you know, when you see a young lad make the debut, yeah, okay, they're nervous for the occasion and wanting to do well, but I don't think they fully understand it sometimes of what is going on, what's around them. Yeah, okay, they're wanting to do well, impress the crowd, impress the family, their friends, whatever it may be. And they just go out and play to a certain extent. And that's possibly where you need them older ones at times to control them, settle them down, whatever it may be. But I was just over the moon that I was playing and involved, and I just wanted more of it. You know, it came to every game then, and I just wanted to play it, and that's kind of how it was. So
then we get some disappointment, I guess, in the fact that Leeds are relegated. And again, I know it's a bit of a cliche in football about the highs and lows, but I guess you've got it again in your career, a bit like after your your debut and then your injury. You've got this some starts with a team and then relegation. How is it same again? How did you find that? Obviously, being a Leeds fan as well must hurt a bit more.
Yeah, I think it was more from a fan point of view that it hurt. You know, out of the season before, they just missed out on the playoffs. Now they've just been relegated. And I'd grown up as yourself of Leeds should be in the Premiership, and that's what I grew up knowing. Never mind being in League One. In space of 2 seasons, so 3 seasons, and it was difficult. But as I said, from a selfish point of view, I was looking back. I was pleased that I had 10 appearances, and I was pleased with regard to that. And as we spoke before, it's disappointing. It'll have hit from a professional point of view. It'll certainly have hit over lads harder because of, as I said, I was disappointed, but I was more pleased that I'd been playing. And as we spoke before, the focus then went on to there'll be people coming and going. We're down a level, and I possibly have a big chance here now of establishing myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this time off the pitch, there's all the financial stuff going on behind the scenes. It's they were well documented. We don't need to talk about that. But we go down and then start the next season. We start on minus 15 points as well, which is we've seen happen occasionally, but again a really strange situation for you and the rest of the lads, I'm guessing. How did you approach that season? Thinking about this minus 15 points, and what was the sort of camp like? How did that sort of feel?
It was obviously difficult. As I say, it was hard for me because let's be honest, some of the lads are being in the administration, not being paid on times. It might have hit them a little bit, and okay, we can laugh about it and say, what, professional footballer having hard times, but sometimes you live to your means, and that it can affect people. But I was a young lad living at home with my mum and dad. They didn't charge me rent or board or anything like that. So
teammate,
yeah, exactly. I wasn't really affected that side, and I was more just, as I say, my main focus and possibly only focus was one. Making sure the team does well and get rid of this minus 15, but at the same time of wanting to establish myself as a main player in this side.
Yeah, and then I think this season is when, for me as an outsider looking in, you might have a very different opinion of it, is when really Jonny Howson comes to the forefront. And I think it was Gary McAllister that gave you a real sort of chance with first team football. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he gave me the first real run of games, maybe starting a few games on the bounce. He was the one that he got me in there more times than not, and something that I'm obviously very grateful for.
Was it extra special coming from a legend of the club?
Yeah, of course it was. It was when he got appointed manager. There was a picture of when I used to be at Churwell Lions, or I think it might have been when my brother's team of presentation night. Sometimes you get a player, and he'd obviously been to Churwell Lions in pictures, and a picture came out of me and him. Obviously I was a young lad, and at the time I probably didn't realise anything like that. But then it's strange how you look back and think, there's someone who's said he'll be managing you in the Leeds United first team. You'd have never believed it. So you look back in it, it's a strange feeling sometimes, little things like that.
And then the next bit, I guess, is taking the captain's armband. I didn't realise this when I was doing some research, but the youngest captain at Leeds since Billy Bremner. What an amazing thing to hold that is. How was that for you?
Yeah, and I've known that for quite a bit of time, or possibly since it's happened. And at the time, you just think, and I'm not half playing this off, but that's quite nice, that's quite good, yeah. But it's not until you either speak to different people or you obviously think about it yourself. He's an absolute legend at the club. He's got a statue outside the ground, and if I followed him in something. It's not bad going, but that's something that I struggle with. I'm not ashamed to admit I probably struggle with taking praise and things like that, or speaking about things like great achievements, because I'll be honest, I don't really know how to deal with it. It's that natural thing. If someone says, "Oh, you've done well," or "You look good," for me, it's that natural thing of, for one, as you've mentioned, I believe I can always do more. Or then it's just a natural thing of, I did okay. It's natural of, even now. And she doesn't say it every week, but if I have had a good game, my mum will, you've done well today, or whatever. And it's kind of that thing of, it would okay. But that's just each individual. That's how I am. As I say, I struggle with to take high praise.
Well, maybe you're not the right player then to have done what you've done in your career in terms of accepting praise, because you have, looking through your career, and we're on Leeds at the moment, but you have been involved in some big moments for the majority of your clubs. That season we talk about Carlisle and the impact you had there, obviously scoring 2 goals, but I think the way you scored the second so late on, I'm sure most Leeds fans have watched that back hundreds of times. Was that your first real exposure in terms of people knowing who you are more, the media, the press, and did that almost propel you to deal with other things and other pressures?
Yeah, as I said, there were more things going on, of maybe things to deal with. I was still living at home at the time. I've still got the paper, and I was on the Leeds fans like this. I was on the back of the Sun newspaper. Headline was "How's that?" Celebrating the goal, and Cristiano Ronaldo's got a little snippet on the left hand side, and it's quite nice to look at that. But that's how, I mean, yourself just discussed before of even when I was at Norwich, things didn't seem as big. When at Leeds like that was League One playoff semi-final. It's back news of the Sun newspaper.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest. If that's someone else in League One, it's not the back page. But at the time, I didn't know any different. You know, I grew up living in Leeds, supporting Leeds. Didn't know any different. That's just how it was, and that's all I knew. So yeah, obviously the next day, I remember having my breakfast. My dad bringing paper in and showing me, and it does take you back a bit, like, oh wow, yeah. But it doesn't sink in. It's one of them moments of, how we discussed before, you probably don't enjoy it or realise what you've done at the time.
Do you think, you mentioned there then this, and I know other fans get sick of hearing about Leeds being a big club, but you know that's exactly what they are, and I think it's not necessarily the stature of the club. I think in a lot of respects it's the expectation of the fans, and therefore some of the pressure that the fans and associated people at the club put on players and the team. How much do you think that's really put you in good stead for the rest of your career? I'm not trying to compare Middlesbrough or Norwich here, but do you think having that, it's a religion in Leeds, right? Do you think, do you think that's put you in good stature for other clubs you play for?
It certainly made me stronger, you know, because throughout my Leeds career, you go from that one, how we just described, if you have the eyes of Carlisle, go to Doncaster, get beat in the final. And I remember coming back on the bus after. Luckily, we can laugh about it now. At the time, it hurt. It really did hurt, because I never wanted to disappoint any Leeds fan. And I remember driving back on the team bus after, and they were giving us signs, giving us everything, look of disappointment, and that was the pride. Okay, I'd had the relegation, as I say, it didn't really affect me that too much being a young lad, but that was the first real time where that hurt. More for the fan or fact of disappointing the Leeds fans rather than from a personal point of view or professional point of view of not getting promoted. Sorry, it was more seeing the fans like that, and as I said, that hurt at the time. But going back to it, there, I've had probably a few more moments like that throughout my career at Leeds, at Norwich, at Middlesbrough. But it's moments like that do make you stronger and do stand you in good stead for the future.
And make you appreciate the good ones. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a long drive up the M1 back, particularly with Doncaster going in the same direction. So I felt your pain that day. But yeah, so I mean, like you say, Doncaster. Obviously, it wasn't a good experience for you, but obviously, it's your going to Wembley. That must have been an unbelievably proud moment for you, regardless of the result.
Yeah, well, you know, I think there was some of the older players at the time that had never been to Wembley, never played at Wembley. And you look back, and obviously I was still a young lad and very fortunate enough to go and play at Wembley. And as you rightly say there, no one can take that away. Are you going to play at Wembley no matter what?
Yeah. It
is that thing of similar to your debut, similar to other big occasions, you want them to win. You know, it want to be. You know, let's be honest, Doncaster deserved it, played far much better than us as a team. So yeah, it's, as the song goes, it's highs and lows, and it tended to be of a massive spike. You know, as we mentioned, you get your debut, you get high, get injured next day, right down in the dumps. Same with Carlisle, massive high, lose at Wembley, massive low. You know, it never seems to really peter off too much.
Is it hard for you to, as an individual, to find that happy medium in an environment which does spike up and down so much?
Yeah, of course it does. And as I said, experience probably helps that. But at the times, it is difficult of dealing with different things. Obviously, I think the different emotions so close together that it can be hard. But at the same time, in the long run, I suppose it can help as well.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next season, obviously I think it was the 9-10 season was, based on my research, a great year for you. You know, during that season, to be appointed first team captain by Simon Grayson, club's young player of the year. You had a championship player of the month in that season. But I think the big piece that I think most Leeds fans would like to listen to about is the January the 3rd against Manchester United. Obviously, as a Leeds lad, we know that there's this rivalry with Manchester United. You, in your career, probably weren't exposed to that as a player, being able to play them week in, week out as we were in the Premier League. But what was that like as a Leeds fan? The buzz about the city, going to Old Trafford, no real expectation on us at that stage. How was the build up to that? How did that feel?
It's hard to describe your emotions sometimes, you know, certainly with something like this, because I was over the moon that I was living my dream playing for Leeds United, but that dream of playing in the Premiership, you know, against these teams week in, week out. It wasn't to be. You'd playing for Leeds United, I'd have taken it in the conference, you know, rather than not at all. Then you obviously get Man U in the cup. We had a replay to deal with that would just skate through. And then when you know you're playing them, you're excited. You're just looking forward to it. First and foremost, you wanted to be playing. You know, I wanted to be starting. I didn't want to be going there and sat on the bench. You know, because the league game before was away at Stockport, and I was on the bench. And my first initial reaction, even at the time, was not really bothered about Stockport, I'll be honest. But if these lads go and do well and hammer Stockport, there's a good chance they could keep the same team. And that's how it was. You know, you have to build up then. And I remember going out for the warm-up. It's a bit surreal at times, you know, because I'd only seen it on TV. The thing that sticks out was the Leeds fans, you know, even for the warm-up, the majority was in there, probably, I presume, might have been police trouble and they needed to be in there at a certain time. But there was a massive atmosphere, certainly from the Leeds end, even in the warm-up. So, you know, the airs were standing on the back in neck, the adrenaline was going, and you just wanted to start the game. You see their team in the change room. They had a strong team out. So even that is a bit of... One hand, you're half pleased, you know, because you want to play against the best players to test yourself, to see where you are. But let's be honest, at the same time, you're thinking, professional-wise, they could hammer us here. And
yeah, I think I'd seen in one of your other pieces that you'd done talking about, you know, being on the same pitch as some of these players and how surreal that felt.
I remember being in the tunnel, and it was Rooney, and looking across to him. And it honestly felt a bit like a computer game, you know, because that's the only way I'd seen him. And it were, as I say, it were a bit surreal of looking across to him in the tunnel there and going out. Unbelievable atmosphere. It is surreal. Even after the game, it takes a long time to properly sink in. You know,
talk us through the on the field piece. Then obviously it's. You got all these great players, but you've got the ball and you've hit that crossfield ball to to Beckford. What's obviously you won't been sat there celebrating your past, but what was the feeling like? What was going through your mind on the pitch at that minute as you see Beckford roll it past the keeper and the celebrations afterwards?
Yeah, that's something that, regards to the footballing piece of, that's something I'd been taught, from Gary McAllister, Dennis Wise used to mention it a bit. I was very fortunate in the fact of they was midfielders as well, so they give me a lot of advice footballing wise, and that used to be the first thing they used to say. If you win the ball back or you get the ball, first thing, look forward. Going back to the reserves, I used to play in the reserves with Jermaine, so we knew each other, knew what his strength was, and he wanted the ball over the top, and that was the case of first thing, get the ball off nails, look forward, and you see Jermaine, and don't matter what level you are, if he's got pace, he's got a chance, and that was the case, and luckily I managed to put it in as well. And at the time, you're a long way away, but you think you get there as quick as possible to go and celebrate, because they're moments that don't happen too often and might never happen again.
Yeah, well, they sing about it to the day, right? So
exactly, yeah. So I'd have, as I say, at the time, you don't realise. It was funny because obviously recently with the lockdown, they played it, hadn't they, on the BBC radio whilst being locked down on the Saturday. And funny enough, I listened to the game, listened to the commentary, and it was quite nice in the fact of, I've never seen it from that side. I've never sat as a fan watching a game of myself. Obviously, it's impossible. But and same with listening. Never listen back to the radio or the commentary. Okay, you can watch a game back, but it's not the same feeling. But with that, it just felt different. And you even get in the nerves and the emotions because you're thinking, I hope they hold on here. I hope they don't score. So it was nice to look back and sure we'll come across this occasion again, in the future of looking back, and it's nice that we've got them moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean that season again finished off very well for you as well. We had Bristol Rovers. I think a lot of people thought we were going to have a shot at the playoffs. And things weren't going well for us at Bristol, were they? For you personally and for the team, I think you were on the bench. Yeah,
I was obviously gutted to be on the bench. That morning, the Saturday morning, I knew I was on the bench, and I was probably fairly relaxed because I was on the bench. It'd have been different if I'd have been starting.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, I played majority of the season, and I'll be honest, it didn't affect me like it normally does because just get promoted, just win this game. That's all I was honestly bothered about, rather than myself. Yeah.
But then Max Gradle gets sent off, and you're asked to come on, and you make a difference. So just talk me through the game from coming on.
Yeah, so obviously Max getting sent off was a big turning point. But even then, let's be honest, it was Bristol Rovers, no disrespect to them. They had nothing to play for. I believe there was mid-table. We was at home. You still half fancied us a little bit. I think it was obviously them scoring just after half-time. That's probably when the doubt kicked in. And I'll be honest, I thought we're going to the playoffs again. And even then you think, we won't do the playoffs because we just lost in the previous two. So doubt kicks in. But as soon as that does, you're probably angry sat on the bench. And for me personally, I'm not the most natural aggressive person, but that probably helps a little bit because you've even got that building up inside you, and even more so wanting to get on just to go and help the lads or try and make a little bit of a difference.
And then you score, and then Beckford gets a winner. So, was that I guess at that point, even though you've been at Wembley, I guess was that the highlight of your career?
Yeah, and when I speak to Leeds fans, they obviously, from a personal point of view, mention the Carlisle, and that was obviously great from a personal point of view. But this is the one that meant more to me. I'm probably by head and shoulders because we achieved something better come the end of it, and as a team, as a player as well, you achieve something. So even though it wasn't the winning goal or anything like that, you're just happy to play a part to get promotion and make history as well.
Yeah, I mean, you are very modest in terms of things, but I think up to that date you had achieved a lot, hadn't you? You'd achieved a lot of highs and a lot of lows. You probably had a career in itself just up to this date. I think it was this season as well where you got a perfect hat trick.
Yeah, Scunthorpe. Yeah. I think that was Championship.
Okay, so
season after.
How do you? So I find it fascinating. Really, you've got these highs and lows of the team. You've got these highs and lows of external factors. You've got highs and lows of personal performance versus a team performance. It's loads to take in. So it must be difficult to sort of get your head around that all in one. But off the back of this success, again, we've talked about highs and lows, and it becomes a reoccurring theme. But obviously, from here, from Leeds United's point of view, squad starts to break down after this. We get people leaving. Your Johnsons, Kilkennys, Beckfords, Gradles, all start to leave. I'm really interested on how, as an individual, one as a fan, I guess I can relate to. You're not obviously happy seeing good players leave. Yeah. I'm sure you want to be playing with good players. But how do you find it? How did you find it to keep motivated, John, when you see that the squad's in decline in terms of talent around you, and you still having to keep motivated things? How did you find that?
Yeah, it was difficult. More from a professional point of view of you want him to play with the better players. It's no disrespect to the lads that either came in or was there at the time, but as you say, when you lose the likes of Max Gradle, Jermaine Beckford, Bradley Johnson, that you'd had success with, you knew was good players, and you're losing them. And as I say, this is speaking from a professional point of view. You're wanting to achieve something. You're wanting more. As I said, how do you deal with the highs of not getting carried away? Because I always wanted something more. You get promoted from League One, right? Go and get promoted from the Championship. And that was my aim. As I spoke about, I grew up as a Leeds fan, watching Leeds in the Premiership. And that was the ultimate dream. Play for Leeds in the Premiership, And not ashamed to admit it, there's probably no other club that I'd go to if Leeds was in the Premiership, comfortable in the Premiership. But that was a problem that I found in the fact of it felt like we weren't giving it a go. It felt like we weren't making or doing everything that we possibly can as a club to try and get there. If we do that, we just miss out on the playoffs or whatever. You can take that, because I can take giving everything a go and failing. That's another thing that I've looked at throughout my career. I prefer to give something a go and fail and think, what if? And as I say, that's just how it felt a little bit. Felt like I wasn't giving it a real go.
And then obviously that led to a departure from Leeds. I think what I didn't realise about you, John, was really your inability to, or your lack of opportunity, should I say, to say bye really to the Leeds fans. Given everything that you'd been through, and obviously as a fan, I'm sure that was probably disappointing for you with your injury against Millwall. Yeah. How did you find? What was that like? I guess as a fan, as someone who's had success and had this, you've been with Leeds since you were 7, right? So almost a second home for you. Yeah. How was that? How was leaving Ellen Road?
It's probably the worst moment of my life, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. And even now, you made a great point, and it's something I've discussed with my wife on numerous occasions, and she's helping hands, discussed it with my dad, my mum, and that was what I obviously didn't know at the time. that Millwall was going to be the last game. I got injured, going to be out for a while. And it came to January and I was still injured, and they accepted the bid and so on. But I think that's possibly still eats away at me a little bit now. I've never got that chance to say goodbye, if you like. Not that it'd have possibly helped if I'd have known it was my last game. But as I say, that's a thing that I still find hard to this day, and it's possibly something that I still struggle to deal with, that side of it. But worse things go on in life. Worse things go on in football.
Looking back, I think I've been in crowd when you've been back at Ellen Road with other clubs. I think regardless of whether you said goodbye or not, you're always accepted back very warmly, aren't you? In terms of your reception.
And I'm not just saying this, but there's two things that have happened in my career that's possibly has mean more to me than anything that I've achieved footballing wise. And obviously one was going back to Ellen Road with Norwich, and obviously I scored and they applauded me, sang my name. And they've done that on numerous occasions when I've been back. And obviously the other was when I went back to Norwich with Middlesbrough, and I was on the bench that day. I'd come on and they gave me a lovely reception. And them two moments stick out at me more for me personally than anything that I'll achieve on the football pitch, because of, I believe, a football match is fine margins. It can be the difference between having a good game or not, and sometimes you can't affect that. But with regards to how people think of you, that respect, you can kind of do something about. So as I said, them receptions, them reactions that I've got, they mean more to me than anything that I'd achieve footballing wise would do.
Yeah, so then obviously you move on, you get past that, and you're settling into life at Norwich. I think so. For the first time, I know you mentioned that for a lot of the start Leeds, you were still living at home. Now you're thinking about moving with family, relocating to Norwich. How was that for you and the family, having to sort of not necessarily leave friends and family behind, but moving to, let's be honest, the other end of the country? How did you find that amongst playing football?
Extremely difficult, as I say. It was the hardest time that I've probably had in my life up until now, and I didn't really know how to deal with it to a certain extent. It was that situation of your heart against your head. From a professional point of view, I knew it was the right decision. I still know it was the right decision to this day. Because I wanted to achieve things from a personal point of view. I wanted to play in the Premiership. Yep. And at the time, I might never have had that chance with Leeds. It's, to this moment, even though they're ever so close, it's proved a correct decision. But that wasn't the case, as I said before. I'd prefer to go and give something a go and then fail rather than think what if. But as I said, I wanted to play in the Premiership. I wanted to try and play for England. Play for a top 6 team, if you like, whatever it may be, and that was my next best chance. And as I said, footballing wise, I felt like the club weren't giving everything they possibly can to give it a go to try and get there. They accepted the bid, and it made it even harder because I was house sitting for my mum and dad, me and my wife Jodie. And we had a little girl, Scarlett, at the time. We was looking after that house because they was on holiday, and they've got horses and a couple of other animals. So we was living at their house, looking after that house and the animals. Well, I've just been told I've got to go and speak to Norwich as well. So I was speaking to my dad at the time on holiday. He was talking about coming back and all these things, but it was difficult. It was difficult for home life as well because of, it was all right. I spoke to my close ones, of close family, of making the decision, but hard thing that I found as well was taking my wife away from her family, moving away then, and that was difficult because her parents as well have found it hard as well as mine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's look at the positives, right? So I know that the dream was to be playing there with Leeds, but as you say, not to be. But going back to the points you made, nobody can take it away from you. You've made your debut against Stoke in the Premier League.
Yeah.
How was, for football fans, what's the difference between the Championship? How did you adapt to that change?
Yeah, I believe it differs, probably from when I played, but I think it used to be top 4 then. It's more top 6 now, or you maybe have a top 2 now in a way. But them top 6 teams, if you like, I think they've got players that can do stuff that other teams can't. And they can be the difference sometimes. There was many times where, let's be honest, Norwich, one of the lesser teams footballing wise, and you can be in a game, come 60, 70 minutes, be doing well, half chance, as where they get half a chance and they just take it. The Aguero, Hazards, Yaya Toure, people like that. They go and do something out of nothing, change the game, 1-0, and see the game out. And there was many times you used to come off the pitch and think, done okay there, not bad, but we've lost 2-0, lost 2-1. So I believe that was the difference of the other teams. There's not too much difference. Okay, there's that little bit, not only natural, but I don't believe there's too much difference. As I say, I think it's more them individuals, and I believe in both boxes as well. Everything just goes up a gear, and in a funny sort of way, for me personally, I think it's suited me a little bit more playing in the Premiership. You have that little bit more time, certainly midfield wise. It was more both ends of the boxes. Everything goes up a notch. That quality improves. You half a mistake, you get punished. You maybe get 1 or 2 in the Championship, get away with them, and I believe that's the difference.
So you talk about taking chances. Obviously, then you took your chance and got your first Premier League goal at Everton. Where does that rate? Obviously, it must be. It's a huge milestone for you, I guess, at this point. Again, is it that almost like when you got your first man of the match at Leeds? Is it that I can do this moment? How did it feel?
Yeah, obviously, as I say, another little milestone, a little achievement, however you look at it. Something extremely proud of. Thunderbolt from about 3 or 4 yards, I believe it was. But nonetheless, yeah, obviously over the moon. Great Premiership goal, whatever goes on from now. Something else that I've achieved, but the flip side of that, you're wanting more. Can I score in the next game? Can I get 2 on the bounce or whatever it may be and improve? And that's the thing. When you achieve something, you want more of that.
Yeah, well, on the subject of goals, obviously you've scored some great goals for all of your clubs from time to time. But when I do my research, watching the Norwich goal at Man City back, is that one of your favourites?
Yeah, I think so. I think it possibly, regards to actual goal, take away whether it meant something or not. That's probably my favourite one. Just for the fact of...
Well, talk us through it, John. So you obviously pick the ball up just before the halfway line. Talk us through, what goes through your head. What happened?
Well, that was obviously something that I kind of based my game on off driving from midfield. And it was one of them situations where it just kind of opened up a little bit. It was like, oh yeah, driving to space there. And I remember getting to Michael Richards and I'd had a bit of an heavy touch. And I think if he'd even been on the front foot, it'd have been a tough, but, we're similar in physique. It'd have been a bit of a 50-50. Yeah. But anyway, he backed off. And when he backed off, I thought, I can knock this past him, and you just, from his position, it's just like anything. It's happening quick, but you just kind of know. And I thought, if I get this past him, I'm in. I obviously still had the keeper to beat, and I knew I could get it past Richards. Knocked him to the ground, as I say, physically, his strength is similar, so that was obviously a possibility. And it was just a case of getting past it, Joe Hart. But the funny thing is, when you watch it back, at the time I didn't have a clue. Pilkington was outside of me, and if I roll it in, he can go and walk it in the net. So if I'd have missed that, he'd have gone absolutely crazy at me. Yeah. You know, luckily enough, I managed just to think, get it on target, get a good shot or whatever, and managed to just slip it under him. And it was a bit one of them of, at the time when the game's still going on, you've half maybe got an idea that wasn't a bad goal, that. But it's not until after that you probably realise. Same with the one that scored against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
At the time, I just thought, nice volley. It's not until after that you either watch it back yourself, or you can tell where people speak to you, and that was the same with them. Going back to the Man City one, them being in the change room after and thinking, I scored the winning goal here. And it was the last game of the season. I think it took us up a few places. Apart from that, didn't really mean anything else. But I remember one of the lads saying, looking over and he's saying, you can't believe it, can you? And I was a bit like, no, not really. And as I say, that's probably, footballing wise, as just an actual goal, that was probably the best one because of the people it was against as well.
You went through some quality in terms of players.
Yeah. So that was another aspect of it that made it nice. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that season obviously there was another really important goal for Norwich, which came in the semi-final. Again, it goes back to, I didn't realise how many important goals you scored, or in the highlight reel, if you like, of certain things. And certainly, as I guess Norwich fans had adhered to his against Ipswich, local rivals, lots of tension and whatever there. And how was that? Obviously, you scored some important goals for Leeds. How did it feel helping your team in such a local derby?
Yeah, well, when I've had derbies. And obviously with the Norwich Ipswich one, that's kind of their only rivalry, and I can't relate to it personally because I've obviously Ipswich don't mean nothing really to me, but I always looked through it of what's Leeds rivalries like, and I was fortunate enough, as we've mentioned, I knew what that felt like, and I just trying to get in that mindset of, and this is how I look to it when I've played for Norwich and Middlesbrough. Play for it like it is your own, because there's people there. It is their own club. They want you to do well, whether it's a fan. Some of the staff was, diehard Norwich fans. So I looked to it more through their eyes, what it meant to them, and that's how I dealt with it. So. You had obviously a nice occasion, but as I said, it's more the fact of possibly because I knew what had happened with the Carlisle ones going in the playoff semi-final. It really mean too much if you don't go on and win the final as well. And luckily that season it was probably the perfect playoff situation for Norwich. Beat a rivalry in the semi. Go to the final and beat a team that's beat you twice throughout the season, and possibly the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, so apologies, I kind of skipped on a little bit. Obviously, before all the success came relegation with Norwich, and how did that feel? Just having a quick reflection on that, John. How did it feel that obviously you've made this move from Leeds, and one of the reasons behind that is your goal to play Premier League football? Was the party that? How did it feel then for that to be taken away from you? Really, was that quite difficult to accept?
Yeah, so I'd obviously been relegated with Leeds, and as I mentioned, I think the relegation didn't have too much effect, but the Norwich one, had more, because I was at that stage in my career where I was arguably going to be maybe at the peak, towards the peak of the career. But the other thing was I'd left, the team that I supported to go and play Premiership football. I was fortunate enough of had 2.5 seasons there, but it was taken away, and it was hard to deal with. Because that's what I'd left to do, to go play Premiership football. But I was part of a team that failed. So I looked to it of, I've also got to be a part of a team that's going to have to try and put it right, because I've played a part in failure. Let's see if we can try and turn it around now.
Yeah, and it seems to be a recurring theme in your career, this highs and lows. But you've got.
I thought you was going to say relegation. Then I was going to say yeah
as well. But then obviously we've already touched on it slightly. But obviously you go back to Wembley. So obviously you're approaching that. You've got the thoughts of Doncaster, and you've had a bad experience. What was the day like and the occasion to go back to Wembley and to end up winning? And obviously a much more bigger prize in terms of the championship. They say it's the richest game in football. Heavily watched. How was that day experience for you?
Yeah, well, I just used them experiences of the Doncaster. You don't want to go there twice and lose twice. So that obviously played a large part in it. And similar sort of feeling to when we got promoted with Leeds on final day of the season. I woke up that morning, and luckily enough we stayed in the Hilton across the road from Wembley. So when you woke up in the morning, I was on that side, and you're looking at the stadium. Not that it left your mind anywhere, but it's there. You just more or less have to walk across. And I was excited. I couldn't wait for it to. You wanted to get down to the ground, wanted to get inside, and it couldn't come quick enough in a way. And luckily, the game went perfect for us to plan. That was our plan going into the game, set out by the manager, of we need to start quick, we need to be on the front foot. And it was perfect. 2-0 up within a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it was. Saw the game out, and perfect planning, and executed perfect as well.
Fantastic. And then you have another season with obviously Norwich in the Premier League before moving on again. Did you find moving on to another? Obviously, you moved from Leeds to Norwich, from Norwich to Middlesbrough. How did you find that? Was it easy that you did it once, or was it again? Did it feel like upheaval? And I guess, was it easier knowing that you weren't leaving yours and your wife's family behind like you were in the first time round?
Yeah, it was easier, but it's these little things that people probably don't realise in regards to football and moving clubs until they've maybe got some involvement. So I'd had a good chunk of 5.5 years, I think it was, down at Norwich. My little girl that would move there had started to grow up. We'd had another little boy, and the little girl had started school, and she'd got best friends that she'd grown up with another players' kids. They were in the same class at school, spent a lot of time together, and that was going to be split up. They was moving as well. They was going to be moving that season. So it was nice on that aspect that we both knew we was moving, but it was hard because for the kids' sake. Splitting them up from their friends, and it's little things that, as I say, that people maybe don't realise, take into account, that go on. That you just kind of have to say we're moving clubs, and that's kind of how it is. Regards to a personal point of view, it was much easier for me because of the fact of I'm a bit of a homeboy. I like being close to home, and that was always my plan, to try and get back closer to home. when he had the chance. Certainly with not getting back to the Premiership, I was probably made my decision a couple of months before end of that season, the previous season, that I was ready for a new challenge, but at the same time I wanted to get back closer to home.
Yeah, so then you come to Middlesbrough. I think you've touched on in some recent interviews that you've done that you struggled a bit for the first time in your career when you joined Middlesbrough in terms of form. And I guess unless my research has failed me, really, I think it's probably the first real time you've had a sustained dip in form. How did that affect you, and how did you maintain this mentality that you talk about that you and your father have, which is, you keep going. How did that affect you?
Yeah, it did affect me, as you said. I'm not saying I've not gone through bad form, but that was probably the first real time for quite a large period, if you like. It was arguably the first half of the season, and I found it difficult because of, for one, I'd come to a new team and you want to go there and impress. First and foremost for yourself.
Yeah.
For your teammates, there's lads that have been here a while, Middlesbrough fans as well. And you get that feeling of sometimes you let certain people down. That's just kind of how I am. But at the same time, this is highs and lows, as we've discussed throughout. These things happen in life. These things happen in football. All walks of life, whatever it may be. You have highs and lows, and it's how you deal with them. And then the thing that affected me was obviously the fans. I could take that a little bit, as I mentioned at Leeds. You take it and it makes you stronger, but it was more for the friends and family sat in the stadium that I had it. But as I say, that's part of love. I just looked at it I set little targets, if you like, throughout my career. You have big targets of the premierships and things like that, promotions, but you can also set little targets, and that's how I've looked at things. And one was, I am going to turn this around, and I'll prove them wrong. That I'm not a bad player. I'm not saying I'm the best player in the world, but
one of the things we've been talking about on our podcast really is coronavirus and how to stay positive through such a strange time for everyone.
Yeah.
How important, both through this coronavirus period and your career, do you find goal setting and, in particular, these little short-term goals?
Oh, massive. As you said, you can relate it to whatever it may be. As you say, this coronavirus. People will be going through tough times because they're not used to being in the house, and just off the top of your head, you need to set little goals of get through the next day, get through the next week. And that's kind of how you have got to look at it. And that's maybe then similar how you can relate it to the football. And you're always going through a bad time, but there was always going to be another game. There was always going to be another game that I might play. Right, go back to basics, do the simple things. And that was the case of it. You maybe have one good game. Right, that's not enough. Now you need two, you need three. And that's how I looked at it. And as I said, that desire was prove people wrong.
Yeah, and obviously you turned it around, and the form came back. During that time as well, there was a change in management. And we've not talked about. Obviously, you've had lots of different managers through your career. We've not touched on it yet, but I'll take this opportunity to talk about it. Yeah. How did you find? Not necessarily. I know you said that there's a new challenge, a new gaffer comes in, but how did you find working with different managers? And if you were to do it in the future, what type of manager do you think you'd be based on that?
Yeah, it's a good question, that, because of I've had a fair few managers throughout my career, and they've all got different ways of playing, dealing with situations, whether it's players, tactics, whatever, because each individual is different. And it's all a matter of opinions, as we spoke about before. And that was something that I believe you've got to adapt to. I've probably played with players in my career where, this is not knocking them, because some have done very well out of it. They believe in a certain way that they play, or they believe in a certain way the game should be played, and they'll stick to that. Whether a manager comes in and tells them to play different, they might not buy into that. But my biggest belief is you've got to be able to adapt. One, because you've got to adapt to play different oppositions, but also two, of this is probably what's helped me in career, as managers play different ways, and I'd always adapt to how the manager wants me to play, throughout my career. Sometimes, probably key example now of people saying, why are you playing right back and centre back? And I believe I'd do anything for the team, because any team's bigger than the individual. And I believe you should buy into the manager's plans. You're better off having a bad tactic, but all working together, rather than a good tactic and half of the team working. So that's what I believe in, and I believe you've got to adapt to different situations and do that.
Do you think that management change, that particular one from Gary Monk to Tony Pulis, do you think that was probably the biggest change for you in terms of? You just mentioned that managers have their ethos, their take on football, how they want to play. Do you think that was probably the biggest change in styles that you?
I think so, yeah. But off the top of your head, even going from Chris Hughton to Paul Lambert to Chris Hughton, that was similar sort, and in a lot with different tactics, different personalities, and it was similar with Gary Monk to Tony Pulis, and all four of them I've enjoyed playing under all at different time, because I look at it it's a different way of playing, something you're going to learn new, and character as well. As I say, when Tony Pulis came in, different way of playing to Gary Monk, and I probably looked at it my initial thoughts was I'm possibly a type of player that might not suit Tony Pulis, but I played the majority of games under him in the end, and something I really enjoyed my time playing under him for the fact of different way of playing, but also the character and the experience. And I believe he gets a lot of unfair criticism at times, possibly because of maybe the way he plays, sets his teams up. But I believe when you've managed them amount of games, the stuff that you have achieved, you can't be a bad manager. And I learned a lot of Tony Pulis, even though I was going through a bad time. I learned a lot of Gary Monk as well.
Yeah, and obviously now you've been reconnected with Woodgate and I say reconnected with Robbie Keane. Obviously, I'm just thinking about Leeds ties there, not necessarily reconnected, but a very young management team. How's that been different from prior managers? Obviously, these lads are closer to your age and very young with sort of bright, fresh ideas, I'm guessing. Has that been different?
Yeah, different again. As I said, I've different personalities, different ways of playing. And there's no right or wrong way answer, So football-wise, the business is the results. Yeah. That's the bottom line. And it don't really matter how you do it to a certain extent. But something that I've enjoyed, as I said, I'm sure they'll say the same thing. They're still learning every day. And in regards to football, it's obviously been a difficult season, but this is probably, it's strange in the fact of it's naturally that you're down regards to results, but regards to going in day out, it's something that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And regards to team and morale, I've obviously done a few interviews throughout the season, and some probably think it's just the cliches or just telling them what they want to hear, but the honest truth is it has been enjoyable, taking the results to the side, and that goes for the majority of the team. It's very rare that squads these days that you get a majority of the lads happy, because you have a certain group that maybe don't play week in, week out, But everyone, I believe, has enjoyed the majority parts of this season. So something new again.
So what's your hope for the rest of the season then, John? I think this is probably a two-part question. One, what are your thoughts on how this is going to be affected by the current pandemic? But two, how would you like to see Middlesbrough finish without obviously saying win every game? What would be the sort of dream end scenario for you?
It's difficult, this situation, because obviously, same with any business, this minute of time, no one really has got a true idea of what might happen. And it's difficult from a personal point of view, regards to football, because of you go out for a run, you keep yourself fit, but there's also that question of, am I doing it for anything at this minute in time? Is the league going to start? Is it going to be delayed? So many questions. But it's stuff that I can't affect. Can't do anything about it, as no one can. You have to deal with your own situation first and foremost, and see what the future holds. If it was my choice, I believe the season's got to finish, however it may be, whether it's behind closed doors. But these games have got to be played. To have a proper outcome. I'm not a believer in on the points or the current standings. Because we've seen throughout numerous seasons, going to them final few games and a lot can change. So I believe the league has got to finish at some stage. How you do that? Just glad I'm not making that decision.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, I mean, look, I won't say you're at the end of your career, but you're in the twilight years. Have you given much thought to what's happening in Jonathan Howson's life after football?
Not too much. I do know that I'm getting towards the latter stages, if you like. But now I've played defence, probably got another 8 or 10 years or so. So so when I was probably a bit younger, and when I mean by a bit younger, 20 odd years of age, I always wanted to be a manager or give it a go. At this minute in time, I possibly don't want to do that for the fact of, and I probably saw this with Gary Monk, because we came to the club at the same time, and our girls joined the school, and I saw them moving about, and each to their own. But I looked at it more of the fact of, certainly family-wise, and as I spoke on before, I'm a bit of a homeboy, and the thing that puts me off with managing is managers can be in a job 2 minutes these days. And that's what puts me off. I don't want to carry on moving around. Coaching wise, possibly the younger ones, it's a bit more stable. Or even scouting. Scouting I've looked into, because this is what I know. Don't really know too much more, as probably some of my mates would tell you about. But who knows? I don't know. Sometimes you get situations. Some managers that I've spoke to in the past have asked them similar questions. How did they get into it? And some have kind of stumbled on it. They might have been at a club and the opportunity arose and they enjoyed it, whatever it may be. So, who knows? Who knows? My mate, as I said, my main focus on still playing football, still enjoying it.
Absolutely.
Still believe I'm fit enough, and I've still got that hunger and passion to do well. So that's my main focus.
Yeah, and I think your performance is absolute testament to that, John. So good luck with the rest of the season. That's been brilliant. I'm just going to finish, if I can, on 5 sort of quick fire questions. Something I like to do with our guests. Should see what we get for this. So, best opponent and why?
So I've got a couple of answers for this. Something we get asked quite a bit, question and answer. And the two that I'd give, the first one would be Dembele, Moussa Dembele at Fulham and Tottenham, the midfielder. Because when I played against him, first time I was at Fulham, got beat 5-0 opening day of the season. It was anything. It was something like I'd not played a midfield against before. You know, let's be honest. Midfielders kind of get the ball, they pass it, make runs into the box, or you get some that'll do a bit of tackling. But he used to pick the ball up and run at you like a winger and go take you on in the middle of the park, and it was a bit like, oh, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that in here. That's like on the wing. But he could do everything. He was strong, he was quick, good on the ball. So on the day, he was the one where I thought, I can't deal with this guy. Anything I do, he can just deal with, and he can do stuff I can't deal with. But the best player, the other one that I choose would be Steven Gerrard. Obviously, I don't need to speak too much about him. You know, things that he's done in the game. Everyone knows what he can do. But
what was it against him? What was it that made him?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It was towards his latter part, so he probably didn't have the same legs he used to have when he was younger. But it's just his know-how of the game. You know, it was one of them where I think you'd got him, you'd turn around, and it'd be miles away from you receiving the ball, and you think, oh, can't get near him. And then flip side of it, you receive the ball and he's touch tight to you. So just the know-how of the game. And he obviously still had the quality. That's something that you'd never lose. I remember him playing a pass and a diag for one of the goals. And yeah, it was unbelievable player.
Best teammate and why?
Footballing teammate?
Yes.
Actual footballer, I'd say Wes Houlihan. Just because as playing in the Premiership, played against some of the top players, footballing wise, he could mix it with them. You know, sort of the smaller areas, ability wise, just as a little incident that'll probably sum him up of how good he is. Was playing Liverpool, and Suarez obviously used to meg everyone. He scored about 3 hat-tricks on the bounce against us, so we always had difficult times. And there's a story with Wes. He was on the bench, and as I say, he had unbelievable ability. Footballing wise, I think he was up there with some of them. And he said to one of the lads, he was on the bench and we was getting beat probably 5-0 or something like that. And he said to one of the lads, I'm going to make Suarez. That's my aim when I come on. And he actually done it. He made Suarez. And Suarez had turned around as he'd done it and acknowledged it. And so that is just little things like that where you think it shows he must have some ability to get him back for what he'd set out to do as well.
Nice. Best manager and why?
Best manager?
Yeah.
As I say, they've all been different. And I've thoroughly enjoyed playing under all of them for different reasons. First and foremost, because I've been fortunate I've been playing as well. But I always, like my goals, I always judge things on success and what they've meant. So I'd have to choose Simon Grayson and Alex Neil for that, you know, because they brought us success, however they did it. So I'd pick them two out. But as I say, all managers I've picked up and learned so many things from.
So last two, best goal?
So actual goal, probably I'd have to choose the Norwich against Man City one. But for goal, what it actually meant, I'd have to say the Bristol Rovers one. As I said, could have been the Carlisle one for what it meant, but I see that as not meaning a great deal. You know, the Bristol Rovers one played a little part in getting promoted on that final day.
And finally, best memory in football, what would that be for you?
If I was to finish playing football today and look back, it's only natural that you'd say the two promotions, you know, and for both being on a final day, if you like, you know, playoff final and last home game of the season. But as I say, the moments in the reception that I've had from the Leeds fans and the Norwich fans when I've gone back there as an opposition, that personally means more to me than any footballing moment.
Amazing. Well, listen, John, thank you so much for being part
No worries, pal.
ViVoCAST podcast. I've
thoroughly enjoyed it.
And the very best of luck with the rest of the season.
Yeah. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.